The time has come to get a new ID picture, which unfortunately means taking off your mask for a second. Luckily, there is a method to doing this as safely as possible while airborne pathogens are still surging around you. The core of the method is this. With my mask still securely sealed to my face, I inhale as deeply as possible and hold my breath. Then I remove my mask and keep holding my breath as long as the mask is not securely on my face. When it's secure again, I exhale. If my mask has an exhale valve, then all of the potentially nasty room air that was in the mask as I put it on will simply be forced out the valve. If my mask doesn't have a valve, like this one here, then the pressure of my exhalation will force any nasty particulates from the room air to become trapped in the filter material from the inside out direction. And that's the gist. You keep a lungful of nice clean air to flush out the unfiltered air when you put your mask back on. In practice, obviously, it can be a bit more complicated than this because we have to breathe to live, and unless you're a free diver and can hold your breath a really long time, your body is going to set a hard time limit on this activity. Considering that, here are my tips for success. 1, this is much easier to do with an elastomeric or reusable mask than a disposable N95 or headstrap FFP2. It takes a bit of time to get on one of these well. Getting a good seal on a floppy guy like this is entirely dependent on a sufficient contiguous area around the perimeter of the mask being pulled tightly against your face by the head straps. That takes a minute to finagle correctly, and for me, taking this off and putting it fully back on is beyond the limit of a comfortable breath hold. Whereas the seal on an elastomeric guy like this or like this depends on the flexible gasket that maintains its shape regardless of whether you're using the head straps. That means that I can hold the mask to my face with one hand and leisurely remove the straps with the other hand and keep the mask held there until I need to take a deep breath and hold for the picture. Then I can immediately slap it back on, let out my deep breath, and hold the mask to my face while I put the straps back on. Some of you are probably wondering,
what about ear loops? My mask with ear loops is really quick to take on and off.
Yes, it is quick to get on and off, but it's probably not protecting you very well, especially in a situation where you're the only one masking. Ear loop masks are better than nothing, but there is a whole lot of scientific research that shows these masks don't seal well enough to be safe for most people. A device that pulls the straps behind your head can help a lot, but I wouldn't rely on that without some sort of DIY fit test because research just shows that this still doesn't fit most people well. I've made a lot of videos trying to demystify mask fit, so if you don't know what I'm talking about, please check those out because I assume if you've watched this far, you actually want to avoid COVID, and ear loop masks are unfortunately just not a reliable way to do this in a risky environment when you are the only one masking. Okay, so to summarize, we can use this breath holding method to take off our masks for a moment, or we can also use it to switch from one mask to another when times may call for that. It's versatile. And no, you're probably not going to take the sexiest ID pic like this. There may be mask lines on your face, your hair might be wacky. In fact, I actually did this recently, and this was my ID picture. Not my number one snapshot, but in the big picture, it doesn't really matter. I would much rather avoid this virus than have a glamorous ID pic. And I'm actually proud that my new one reminds me that I'm doing the best I can under the circumstances.